Hi everyone, my name is Adjoa Pokunyako and I'm sitting here with the head of the MBA program, Dr. Jako Volschenk. Welcome, Jako.
Hi Adjoa, thanks for having me.
We will be discussing blended learning today and the advantages that it can have for a student that is enrolled at the USB. So Jako, tell me a bit about blended learning. What is it and how can it work for students that are coming to the business school?
Adjoa, thanks for that question. Blended learning is blended in a number of ways. So firstly, it refers to the fact that there's a blend between physical and virtual classes. So if you do an MBA with Stellenbosch University, you will come to campus for the first block of your blended program, which means you will meet the faculty that will be teaching to you, you'll be meeting your peers, you'll be put into your groups. So it's quite important for us for that contact to have with the students in the beginning. But once that first block is done, you will only be attending classes every week for 4 hours at a time, either on a Tuesday or a Wednesday evening. And that's the second way in which it's blended, because you can then choose whether you would like to attend from your computer or whether you would like to come here to campus and attend in class. So those students that want the classroom experience, they can come here. Those that want to feel, well, they function better in a virtual environment, they can do that as well. The other way in which blended learning is blended is that we do a mix between asynchronous, which means that it's content that you're not doing together with someone, and synchronous learning. So the synchronous part, it's very important for us to have that contact with our students, to have the opportunity to speak to students, to have that debate face to face, because quite often you learn much more from your peers than you actually do from the faculty members. Ironically, don't tell anyone that. But the asynchronous part is where you can, before the class starts, read the material that you need to prepare for the class, and at the same time we make pre-videos. So we discuss the theory before you come to class, because the virtual classes or those blended classes are about 2 hours in duration, and like I said, it's every week for 4 hours. So you do 2 classes back to back on one evening.
So Jako, tell me, what sets USB's blended learning apart?
Adjoa, the answer lies at quite a few levels. Firstly, I should say that USB has been doing blended learning since forever, well actually more from 2015, but we've been doing it for a very long time and we're very good at it. In around about 2018, we secured some strategic funding from the university, and we invested heavily in technology for blended learning. So if you see this classroom that we're in, it's completely ready. It was ready in 2018 already for blended learning. When COVID came along, we were just completely ready for it, and we kind of continued with classes without even breaking our stride. I would say we're very good at blended learning for 2 reasons. Well, firstly, I think at the content level, we've got some of the best faculty in South Africa in their fields. Some of them are in their fields globally renowned. If you think about research, the metric that they use is citations, and the average citations of our faculty is the highest of any other business school in South Africa. So you really have the people that teach you are really experts in their field. But not only that, we've invested heavily also in the capability of our faculty to teach in a blended environment. You don't want someone to be an expert in their field and then look like the village idiot when they on Zoom and they don't know how to go to the next slide or something. So we've invested heavily in that, and the classroom experience is a full-on experience in a virtual environment, and it's made possible because the faculty has been developed for that particularly.
What are the advantages of blended learning, or the blended learning format?
Adjoa, the answer can lie again at a number of different levels. I think firstly, from a university or from a business school point of view, blended learning allows us to have students from across the world coming into class. If we have different MBA streams, for instance, healthcare leadership, management of international organizations, and project management. So you can have someone now from, in fact, we have students from the Netherlands who are interested in healthcare leadership. So they can now join the class in South Africa on a Wednesday or Tuesday evening, and be part of the class and be part of that conversation. So you have a much more diverse audience in that group. But at a much more practical level, it means that you don't have to, if you want to do an MBA, you don't have to travel down to Stellenbosch or Cape Town every 2 months like the modular students typically would need to do. So you can have complete flexibility about how you plan your year. You don't, if you know you've got a big sales trip to America, you don't have to now not go because you have to come to campus. You just need to be available for those 4 hours in that week, and we can accommodate you then. And even if the odd occasion that you can't do it, the classes are being recorded, so you can watch them afterwards again. The same with the asynchronous content that I spoke of earlier. The theory that's been recorded on videos, that's available to you all the time, so you can re-watch them all the time, and of course that's also available to the modular students, so I guess it's a similar thing. From a cost point of view, the MBA is not cheaper because it's in a blended format. It's still the same contact hours, it's still the same content, it's still the same degree. Where it does become cheaper is the fact that you don't have to travel down to the USB every few months to come here, and you don't have to pay for accommodation. So it works out a little bit cheaper.
So Jako, what is the structure of a typical blended learning class?
Adwa, if you come to a blended class, you of course have the preparation to do beforehand. So typically the students would watch that videos, the asynchronous videos before the time. They will also be looking at maybe articles or something that you need to read before the time. Sometimes there's a quiz that you need to complete to show that you've done the reading and that you understand the reading, and that's particularly relevant for topics like statistics. But once the class has started, some students will be here in class, some students will be at home. The students at home, if the professor asks a question, you've got the option whether you want to unmute yourself and contribute to the conversation. And I like that. It's terrible if you speak in silence, but that's why, you know, professors like being in the class. But at the same time, you've got your more introverted students that don't necessarily want to speak up, and they often would comment in the comment section. So I find that dynamic is actually fantastic to have the input from the extroverted students that want to speak up and the ones that want to comment from the side. And you can even sometimes, for instance, when you teach and I'm in the class, I would comment on what you're saying in the class in the side. So I think that part of what also needs to happen in that session is you will have polls or breakout sessions in the class. What I love about the blended format is that the students in class can kind of make their own breakout group, but the students that are online, you can make them select their own breakout groups, and they can have conversations, and you bring it back to the class, and everyone can then consider that. In a Zoom environment, which is the technology that we use, you know, you are a meter away from the student. If I'm teaching from home, for instance, like now when it was in lockdown, you're a meter away from all the other students. So it's incredible intimacy that you have with the students, and I really like that, and I think the students also respond very well to that.
So Jako, if I'm a student and I'm trying to determine whether I should come to class or whether I should stay at home, which option would you recommend to me and why?
Ajwa, I think firstly I quickly need to explain that there's the alternative to a blended format MBA is a modular MBA with Stellenbosch. The modular MBA means that, like I said before, you come to Stellenbosch to Belleville, to the USB campus for that first week, and then you will continue with blocks in the modular format. And that format is typical for students that can take leave, that have that ability to plan in their year. For instance, people in the wine industry know when the harvest season is, and they know they won't be busy during a certain block. But if you're in sales and your company is sending you all over the place, it's more difficult to plan ahead. So the modular is for people that have certainty, that would like to come to campus and interact with the group, with the rest of their peers. But I think almost more importantly, I can compare blended versus modular with a sprint and a resting period in between and a marathon. So the blended is much more the marathon. You have 4 hours every week. It's much more constant. But that rhythm, I mean, you know, both of those groups very quickly fit into what suits them. The modular students love the fact that they come to campus, they concentrate here, they're away from work, they can only focus on this, and they can be with the rest of the group. And of course, we're talking about outside of COVID at the moment. Whereas the blended students, you can choose whether you want to come to campus if you are close to Cape Town. But the blended students in Johannesburg, in Rotterdam, or wherever they are, they want to be able to dial into this session, and they want to do that in a weekly format, and they want to be able to relaxedly read for next week. And if you realize in a modular format in that week that you're behind schedule, it's gone. You can't catch up during that week. In a blended format, if you realize tonight, I wasn't quite certain of what I had read before, you can then go rewatch the material, you can rewatch the class. So the ability to stay up to date is a little bit better.
What do you see for the future of blended learning?
Well, we have a specialist department at the USB called the Teaching and Learning Committee, and there's a whole number of people working in that. So they're on the cutting edge of things that are happening. What we know about the future of blended learning is we're going to see more of it in the future as we see more people coming. As with COVID, people were suddenly forced into blended and online formats, and suddenly everyone realized, groceries bought online taste the same as ones that you used to buy in the shops. So we definitely see that people become more used to it. We'll see more of it, but at the same time, the technologies are becoming just so much better. If I just think of Zoom, a year ago, you couldn't let people choose their own breakout rooms, and now you can. So that's simply things like that which makes facilitation online just so much easier. But at the same time, what makes blended learning will make it more popular is that quite a lot of the online programs that you see now internationally is mostly just asynchronous. So it's you watching some professor telling you something and you have no interaction. So I think as we see more online or more virtual programs becoming online, there's a bigger need for people to still have the human contact. So the synchronous component is very important to us. It's something that has always distinguished USB, that we want to have that contact with our students. We are developing responsible leaders. Responsible leadership is not something you learn from a video, just as you don't learn swimming from watching a video. So we want that interaction, we want that debate, we want the interaction between students. We also want students to, outside of the classroom, have opportunities to meet each other. So once every while we would have dinners in your area, in your restaurant, where alumni and your current peers will meet at the restaurant. You'll just have a relaxed dinner, but you can meet someone you know from another company that you want to work with or want to network with, etc. So we see that increasing more and more.
So Jako, if I'm a student, how can I be successful in my use of blended learning?
I think, first of all, I think it goes without saying so, but you need to have good internet access. Your interaction with the class depends on your internet access. So having good speed on your internet connection. Secondly, having a computer that can take Zoom. Some employers, for instance, do not want you to install software like Zoom on their computers. So I think those are, firstly, the important thing. It's also important to realize that the MBA is a very rigorous program. You have to prepare for class. You have these asynchronous videos you can watch before the time that brings you up to speed with the theory a little bit, but quite often there's still a lot of reading to go with that. So you have to prepare well for class so that when you come to class you can defend your point of view. And then thirdly, when you write assessments, those assessments typically happen on a Monday evening. So make sure that your Monday evenings are kind of uncluttered and unoccupied, because if you write a test, you will be writing it again online. We use software that they refer to as proctoring software, which means that we can record your screen, we can record you and the sound around in your room. But that, again, it allows our students to write tests and assessments anywhere in the country in a reliable way, so that we can still go to accreditation agencies and say, look here, you've got a reputable degree that's with a solid, rigorous background in testing.
So Jako, to conclude, we've spoken quite a lot about MBA students, but of course we have other programs as well. Do we offer blended learning for these students as well?
Indeed, Adwa. All our programs are available in a blended format currently. So there's the master's degree in development finance. There are postgraduate degrees in business management, administration, coaching, leadership, there's futures. So I think there's multiple options if you want to study in a blended format. The students that are interested to study here should also look at our website, of course. But we are launching a new PGD format next year, which allows you much more flexibility when you do the PGD to go into any of our master's degrees after that. So I think it's really important, if someone is interested to study with us, to have a degree from an accredited top international business school. I think our website is the starting place. All the information is there. They can quite easily find everything they would need from us.
Great. Thanks, Jako. And I think that, for our audience, it's clear that blended learning is just another option for you to complete your studies. And I think that it's clear as well that you won't be losing out on the student experience should you go this route.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you.